Oh, sure can dissect it. I think there's all these, I want to say like cliche comments when we talk about um, goal setting. And I'm sure, like, give me a one in the chat. Have you heard like boiling the ocean or how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? Right? Like anyone. Um, uh, when we are thinking about our numbers for our team, for ourselves, a lot of this comes down to it can become overwhelming when the pressure is on and we're looking at this huge hill that we have to climb, whether it's revenue or daily activity or um, just deliverables in general. How can we make it smaller micro goals? It's much more attainable. Anyone a fan of the book Atomic Habits?
Mm.
James Clear does a phenomenal job about explaining this. If we can just take it like one day at a time, it's hard to see that we can achieve something when it's too big and we can't understand it. Like space is ginormous, but can I think about, you know, North America? Can I think about North Carolina? Can I think about my cul-de-sac or whatever it is? If I can bring it down to just what's right here, right now, much more attainable mindset wise, and puts us all in a much better spot to go achieve that goal.
I mean, a real quick guidance on like the easiest way to coach for the leaders and managers out there. Don't overthink this. You start with what went well, and then you go to what didn't go well. And the thing that didn't go well, you talk about how it's going to go well next time. Like that basic framework works for almost any coaching conversation. Now, what gets lost a lot in the coaching conversation, in addition to being positive, like you said, it all runs downhill. Like you as a leader need to be that umbrella that's blocking that to your team, right?
Nice.
And when you block it, you also create a framework around how you're going to help that rep in those one-on-one conversations. And so one of the big misses is that conversation is only around pipeline. There's more to the role than pipeline. It's a huge part, important part, but there can be more to it. The second part is nothing is documented in that conversation. And so there's no real action item that comes off of it where there's accountability. And oftentimes for me, that is on me. Hey, if Leslie's on my team, hey, Leslie, I'm going to email James because we're stuck in this account and I'm going to help you as your leader. And then the last part is it needs to be metric driven, like make the KPIs all in one place where everybody knows how you're performing. It's not a mystery. So create a structure first be that umbrella, create that structure, share the positive with the constructive, and make sure it's documented and there's action items and metrics that come off of it. Why does all that stuff matter? People want to know where they stand. Uncertainty breeds chaos, right? And so if somebody doesn't know where they stand, then they're insecure in their role and they're not going to perform well. So good or bad, that needs to be transparent. And as you can tell, this is a pretty core thing to us at Ambition.
So the question is, how do we coach to the individual's motivation? Because a 22-year-old live-at-home seller isn't the same as a 42-year-old father of 3 seller, right? They're motivated differently.
Thank you. There's a quick answer to this. You ask them. People way overthink. Way overthink the motivation, or they always assume it's money. Like for me, it really isn't financial. I want to win. Now I want to be compensated fairly, and I know what that should be and all of those things, but I'm terrified to lose. Like the motivation is I don't want to lose. And I will spin that as in like, I want to win. And when a deal signs for someone on my team, I feel immense joy, right? And so you have to, I know for me, before I had kids, my motivation was a lot different than now that I have 3 little ones. Like it's a very different piece there. So ask them. That's the answer. Ask them.
Leslie, thoughts on coaching to individuals and then the difference between coaching to individuals and the team as a whole?
Yeah. Mark hit it right on the head. Like for him, it's winning. That was one of the questions in my get to know you. Anyone new who's joining the team is like, okay, talk to me about your goals. What are they? What do they look like? And then I'd ask questions. Just tell me more about that. The same way that we like would ask prospects questions. I think some of the most common things that I see come up is like when we do a contest in a sales team, it's like the winner gets, a $50 gift card. Here's Starbucks or Visa or whatever it is. But Mark, like, he just wants to win. So maybe the money's not motivating him. It's the, badge of honor. It's recognition. So like sending an email to your C-suite and copying him in about how great Mark is, or maybe it's extra time off on you get to leave early on Friday and go hang out with your family or go to the beach or do whatever it is that you want to do. Everyone has a different feel. So like I've seen some really great spiffs where it's like choose your own adventure. Here's the options so that you're not sticking reps into just one thing that you think is going to cover everyone because we're all salespeople.
Can I add here too that so Ambition runs a ton of contests, like tens of thousands of contests every year. About 80% of those don't have a prize. It's visibility. It's how does James, the CEO, see that Mark, the SDR, just set a meeting in an easy way, put an emoji, right? So don't think you always have to have a prize. But to Leslie's point, individualizing what the prize could be, we've had a number, let's call it $200 is what you win for the prize. Well, before that contest starts, I'm going to say, hey, go on Amazon Prime, find me something or multiple things that amount to $200 and send it to me. And if you win, that's what you're getting, right? So that is such an easy way to individualize what they get if it is a prize, and anyone can do that. So the first thing I want people to hear is you don't always have to have a prize. Visibility is huge. And then the second is there's easy ways to individualize that through Amazon.
I think first off, it's like talking about it, sharing our own, and like making sure everyone feels like there's a piece of that. I think imposter syndrome is kind of thrown around, and there's some crazy articles out there you can see. Someone said something to me a couple years back. I wrote it down on a sticky note. I still have it in my calendar to this day. And it says, there's no B2B or B2C anymore. Business is not business to business or business to consumer. It's H to H, human to human. And especially when you're starting out somewhere new, when you're fresh out of college, it is very intimidating because we're always taught to respect. It's like you hold the teacher in a high regard, you hold parents in a high regard, and it's like this different dynamic of power. And it's really hard to undo that learning and just have a human conversation with someone because you feel like, oh my gosh, he's got a C in his title. That means I have to treat him differently, or that I'm not as good as that person. And if we can start talking about like fostering those conversations internally, letting is a bad, but like having our SDR, our BDR team, our new hires, anyone be able to sit down and have coffee with your CEO or just have a normal conversation and see that they're a real human goes beyond. VPs, whatever, if you're a senior leader, especially, like just go hang out and have a talk, not necessarily all about work, with your team, your
false evidence appearing real. That's what Paresh just put in there. Shout out to Paresh for that one. That's what fear. I've heard that acronym a couple of times now. Fear, false evidence appearing real. So that's good. Mark, the imposter syndrome thing. You guys probably see this often.
One, everybody has it.
Yep.
Like I have it. We all have moments where we have imposter syndrome. So if you're like an SDR calling on a C-suite person, you probably think, man, do I like deserve to have this conversation? Yes. Right. And why? Because that C-suite person, they know a lot about a lot. But if you know your thing really well, then you know more than they do about your thing. Right. And so that imposter syndrome, one, just admit that it's a thing and it's okay. And most people I know have it. But two, if you become an expert in your little niche, regardless of who you're talking to, you are the expert. And so you can help inform, educate, solve problems for that person. And you don't have to know every in and out of their business. You just got to know your little corner.